Greetings class. Today the topic that we shall be studying about is the Revolt of 1857. The Revolt of 1857 is a very important topic in modern history for your exams. Not just the revolt, but the aftermath that it brought with it, right? So just a quick sort of gist I'll give you what happened before the revolt of 1857. Now, before 1857, there were movements, there were discontent among the Indian population. There were movements, there were peasant movements, there were civil uprisings, there were tribal movements, tribal revolts. That's a whole another topic to do. But there were many things, and tribal revolts were a major part of them. Whether it be Pagalpanth revolt, whether it be Kuka revolt, Paika revolt, Ferazi revolt, all of that. The thing that I'm telling you here is all these revolts, the peasants uprisings, and even the military rebellions, whether it be from the 34th Native Infantry or 7th Native Infantry, all that, none of them took a mass scale, right? But the revolt of 1857 did. Why it did, how it happened, what were the reasons behind it, we shall all study about it. Now, koi bhi cheez, for instance, it said that World War I was started when a boy killed a prince. But was it the case? No. There was a lot that happened before it. There was a lot of build-up. So the same thing happens here. There was a lot of discontent among Indians which was, boiling out, simmering. And that discontent broke out in the form of a violent outbreak in the year 1857, in the form of Revolt of 1857, which actually shook the Britishers to the very foundation of their rule in India. Right? What happened? Why it happened? I have categorized the reasons among 4 to 5, I guess 6 categories. One of them is the immediate reasons, so 5 heads. Very first, economic head. So what was the economic reason? I'm so sorry, I don't know where I've kept the marker. What was the economic reason that happened? What were the economic reasons? We all know economic policies of Britishers drained our wealth, right? It was all said that East India Company is like a sponge. It sucks the good from the river of Ganges and drains it into the river of Thames. That's what they actually did. They drained us out. They exploited us. Britishers exploited Indian economy. How they did? The land revenue policy, Rayatwari, Mehelwari system, permanent settlement system, all were very exploitative to the zamindars and the peasants. Other than that, the artisans and handloom industry, which had patronage from the Indian rulers, they were not given patronage when British annexed the Indian territories, right? Karl Marx in the year 1853 writes that it was the British intruder who broke up the handloom and destroyed its spinning wheel. Karl Marx in 1853 said this. And also the industrial revolution that happened in England, the influx of manufactured machine-made goods to India, that also hampered a lot. So economic reason to ye ho gaya. Other than that, what was the administrative reason? Administrative reason, like a potato, corruption. The British officials were very corrupt, especially corruption was very prominent in the lower level of administration, and the administrative policies and functioning was the machinery, judicial machinery or police or revenue, the machinery was so complex that it became easy for the rich to exploit the poor. Political, it's majorly the annexation policy of British. The policies of subsidiary alliance, effective control, doctrine of lapse, which restricted to pass on the throne to the adopted sons. Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi, she was not allowed to do so to her adopted son. Doctrine of lapse was the major policy of discontent. It restricted to pass on the throne to the adopted sons. Subsidiary alliance is said to be the brainchild of French governor Dupleix. Subsidiary alliance, what it did was, subsidiary alliance was an agreement between Indian princely state and the Britishers that the states shall be protected from external interference, given that they station an army or a tukdi ke English mein what is unit at their expense. Now, doctrine of lapse. What was the first state to be annexed through doctrine of lapse? It was Satara in the year 1848. It was Satara in the year 1848. After that, there were many states that were taken over, like Udaipur. Udaipur, not in Rajasthan, it is in present day Chhattisgarh. Udaipur was there. What do you call another one? Satara was there, Udaipur was there, and I'm forgetting the name, other names. There were many states. Nagpur was there, Jhansi was there, and there was this one more in near to Chhattisgarh, Sambalpur. Yeah, Sambalpur was also there. So there were many states. Now, political mein majorly it was the annexation policies of Britishers. It reached its peak at the time of Lord Dalhousie. Who was Lord Dalhousie? Lord Dalhousie was the Governor General of India from 1848 to 1856, followed by Lord Canning, who was Governor General after Lord Dalhousie until 1858, when he himself became the first Viceroy of India. Now, we will come to that when the reasons are over. It was a consequence of the revolt of 1857. Now, the social-religious causes. What were the social-religious causes? Social-religious causes were the causes or the things that Britishers did, which made Indians feel the social reforms, may it be whether it be the stopping or curbing the female infanticide, whether it be banning sati in the year 1829, whether it be passing of Widow Remarriage Act in 1856. Who was the person behind passing the Widow Remarriage Act? Who pushed for it? Not the one who passed. Ishwarchand Vidyasagar. Okay, this will come when you study about social reforms in India. Now, all these things, whether progressive, obviously were progressive, but it some or the other hampered or apparently it seemed to the Indian population that they were hampering the cultural heritage of the country or their native heritage, which was true, but not in this sense. Rather, there was an increasing westernization. There was definitely an increasing westernization. What's true and not, that's not for us to figure out, but westernization was there, and it was seeming that Christianity was introduced. There were Christian missionaries as well working. So some or the other way, people were discontent because of foreign culture or westernized culture coming to India. Right. So there was discontent, and also there was this 1856. There was Service Enlistment Act. I'm forgetting the name. Just let me check. Yeah, Lord Canning only passed it. It was General Service Enlistment Act, which decreed that all the future recruits to the Bengal Army shall be sent at the discretion of the government anywhere. And it was considered that the one in Hindu community, that one who crosses the sea, is kind of boycotted or outcast from their own caste. So that was something that hampered the religious sentiments. Also, it led to the discontent among sepoys. And also another thing, which was also an immediate reason, was that the old musket, brown bis, was replaced by Enfield. And the cartridge was greased with the fat of cow and pork. And it was really hard, so it won't come off with hands, so you had to pluck it with your teeth. That was the immediate reason of discontent among the sepoys, and that led to the revolt of 1857. You must have heard about Mangal Pandey. He was in the 34th Native Infantry. In the 34th Native Infantry, in April or I guess March 1857, Mangal Pandey refused to use take off the cartridge. He refused to use the cartridge. After that, he attacked his senior, and then he was executed, unfortunately. On April 8th, he was executed. Yeah, on April 8th, he was executed. After that, 7th Native what you call infantry, 7th Native Infantry in Awadh, they also resisted it, but they were met with the same fate. But what actually happened, 85 or 90, I guess 90 of the sepoys, 90 sepoys in Meerut in the 3rd Native Cavalry, they refused to accept the order, and 85 of them were sentenced to imprisonment for 10 years. But what happened was, they did not contain themselves and they started up a movement. And here comes the immediate cause of the revolt of 1857. All of them, all of the local, the infantry that was there in Meerut, they started marching to Delhi. And in Delhi, they were joined by the local infantry, and they killed the senior there in Delhi, who was Simon Fraser. Apparently, they all went to Bahadur Shah Zafar and chose him as the Emperor of India without even asking him. That it is said that Bahadur Shah Zafar, who was actually the Emperor who was actually the Badshah, considered at least in terms of the Mughal Empire. Mughal Empire actually was a very long reigning empire in India and still existed. So maybe that was the reason that they chose the Mughal emperor to be the Emperor of India. Everyone, there was a unity in this, that everyone will be choosing Bahadur Shah Zafar as the Emperor of India after this revolt, and we will get Azadi. And after that, the Badshah of India will be Bahadur Shah Zafar. Even Nana Sahib, who was the son of Peshwa Bajirao too in Kanpur, he killed the British officer there, and he took control, and he declared Bahadur Shah Zafar as the Emperor of India and declared himself as his governor. Now, the reasons, we know what happened, and we also now know that what basically this 1857 sepoys the wo tha. So why it is important that these sepoys, they went there? Was it just a sepoy mutiny, or was it more than that? Veer Savarkar, he says that it was the first war of independence, the revolt of 1857. So was it a war of independence? Can it be said as the first war of independence, or it was just a sepoy mutiny? Right, we will be studying that now. Now, before we get any further, this revolt of 1857 is spread out. It's spread out to almost all of North India, and I will tell you where and who were leading the revolt. I have noted it down. In Delhi, it was Bahadur Shah Zafar, obviously, and also General Bakht Khan, who led the troops of Bareilly to Delhi. He was actually leading in Delhi as well. And in Lucknow, it was Begum Hazrat Mahal. In Jhansi, it was Rani Lakshmi Bai. In Ara, it was Kunwar Singh, the landlord of Jagdishpur. Jagdishpur and Ara is the same. In Bareilly, it was Khan Bahadur Khan. And these are important ones. I guess this is sufficient for you to know. Other than that, Kanpur, it was Nana Sahib, son of Peshwa Bajirao II. The ones who suppressed it were in Delhi, John Nicholson, who succumbed to injuries actually. John Nicholas, he died. And William Hudson, the ones who are in Delhi University, you must be knowing Hudson Lane, North Campus. It is named after William Hudson. Lucknow, Colin Campbell. Kanpur, also Colin Campbell. Jhansi, it was Winslow Taylor in this Jagdishpur Ara. And one important or one factual kind of thing that was there is झांसी के रिवोल्ट को जिसने सप्रेस किया था उनका नाम ह्यू ग्रोज था. एंड ह्यू ग्रोज said about Jhansi ki Rani as a tribute or whatever you consider it. Hugh Gross said that here lays the woman who was the only man among the rebels. I'll repeat it. Here lays the woman who was the only man among the rebels. This is what Hugh Gross says, who resisted the attack, who resisted the revolt in Jhansi. In loosely it said in Hindi, खूब लड़ी मर्दानी वो तो झांसी वाली ना रानी थी, right? So he is also saying that she was the only man among the, she was the woman who was the only man among the rebels. ठीक है, तो इससे हमको एक ये सीखने को मिलता है कि लड़ाई जो है, जंग हथियारों से नहीं, जंग हौसलों से लड़ी जाती है. ठीक है, रानी लक्ष्मीबाई, she might, I think she would have known her fate fighting the mighty British Empire, but she still fought. Why? Again, लड़ाई हौसलों से लड़ी जाती है, हथियारों से नहीं. She took over the British Empire and she was defeated, but even the one who defeated her acknowledges that she was really good. So that is something very important to think, important to see and learn actually. But this took a quite a big mass scale, but it could not get, or it could not succeed. It could not get into a success. It could not turn into a success. Why? What were the weaknesses? Number one weakness is there was no pan-India presence. Pan-India presence नहीं था. No unified ideology. Pan-India, it was not there. Unified ideology was not there. And what? Organization. It was not organized. People did not have a common ideology. It was not organized, and it is estimated that more than 1/4 of the land and not more than 1/4 of the population. ठीक है, not more than इसको pan India में रखते हैं, less than 1/4 of the land and less than 1/10 of the population. Land and less than 1/10 of the population was affected. So it was definitely not a very pan India thing. Like 10% of the population और 1/4 तो 25% ही हुआ ना, land and 10%. So there was not much that they could cover, but still, other than that, they did not have a unified ideology. They did have Bahadur Shah Zafar as their leader, they declared, and Bahadur Shah Zafar was the one who coordinated, who like wrote letters that we should now be to the local leaders of the places that we should come together. And the only thing they had was a common alien enemy, that is the Britishers. But they did not have a unified ideology other than that. They only had that there is a foreign rule that we need to push out. But other than that, they did not have anything. Also, poor arms. They had poor arms and ammunition. They were not good in front of Britishers with advanced equipments, modernized equipments. They did not have any, what you can say, ammunition that could be taken onto, right? So this is one thing. Also, the zamindars acted as breakwaters because the rulers were scared of the British strength, right? Obviously, the rulers would be scared of the British strength. British Empire was mighty. To said that the sun never sets on the British Empire because it was so huge that whether on the planet Earth, there was no time that the British Empire did not have the sun above it. It was so huge. एक जगह रात होती थी तो दूसरी जगह सुबह हो जाती थी. इतना बड़ा था. Now, I guess other than that, what weakness was there? They had no vision. ये तो इसमें आ जाएगा. हाँ, middle class educated Indians. The middle class educated Indians, they were not a part to this because they were kind of satisfied with the social reforms that the Britishers were bringing. These were called as the middle class educated Indians, were known as intelligentsia. A class of people emerged. This intelligentsia, they were not a part of this revolt because they were more or less satisfied with the reforms that the Britishers were bringing. Right now, the reasons we studied about, the weakness we did study about. We shall now be knowing about the consequences of what happened. What were the consequences of the revolt of 1857? Now, class, the thing is, I'm not saying that Britishers were good or positive on their part, but one thing that you should also learn from the retaliatory action that they took is they understood what were their weaknesses in the ruling and they took immediate action. even before the revolt was completely, suppressed, even before the revolt was suppressed, they passed an act for the better government of India on August 2, 1858. Right? Okay, before that, I will just tell you about what happened to Bahadur Shah Zafar. Bahadur Shah Zafar was taken into prison as a prisoner and was sent to exile in Rangoon, that is modern day Myanmar, where he died, which was not a good death he had. But he was actually not very willing to be part of resistance as such. It is said that he was already an old emperor counting his, last days, but it was the whole country that made him the symbolic head for the resistance. Anyways, what was the result or the consequence? The consequence or the aftermath that happened, was end of company's rule. End of company rule. Queen's proclamation. Also said that they will be religious tolerant, and other than that they also said that there will be equality or equal opportunities. That was only in paper, but क्योंकि वो civil services exam वगैरह वहीं पे दिया था उन्होंने, लंडन ही center था, but still administrative military reorganization. The ratio was increased in reorganization in military, British to Indian, but higher posts remained with the Britishers only. Now, what happened was, in the 2nd of August 1858, as I told you, even before the revolt was completely suppressed, an act for the better government of India was passed, August 2, and it provided for a Secretary of State. It provided for a Secretary of State for India who was to be a member of British cabinet to be under the crown, and it declared this Queen Victoria as the sovereign of British India. Queen Victoria as the sovereign of British India. It is what happened in the Queen's proclamation in Allahabad Darbar on 1st November 1858 that the name of the Queen Victoria was said. The name of the Queen Victoria was given as the title of Empress of India. Queen Victoria to be the sovereign authority or sovereign body to control the British Indian territory. They also said that annexation to the territories would be, stopped. But it was only the annexation to the territory that stopped. But the systematic economic loot only started by this. Okay? The territorial annexation might have stopped, which it did, the territorial annexation by the Britishers, but the systematic economic loot, it had only begun. They looted Indians like anything, exploited us like anything. And what else happened? Religious tolerance. They said that they won't be disturbing much of the customs and traditions of the country. Other than that, they also said that the administrative changes that they brought, that Indian rulers' rights were recognized. Doctrine of lapse was abolished. That was one thing. Other than that, what also happened was the right to adopt son as legal heirs was accepted. And the ratio of British officers to this Indian, that was increased, but the higher post that remained with the Britishers. All right. Now, what else is left? I don't think anything is left. Just let me check. So, what actually happened in the revolt of 1857? You are now aware of that. But was it just a Sepoy mutiny, or was it a first war of independence? What was it? That's the most gale ki haddi thing that people often question. So what you can write if it is asked, or what you can write in as a conclusion in your subjective exams is, the revolt of 1857, though not just a Sepoy mutiny or a first war of independence, though not a first war of independence, but was definitely more than a Sepoy mutiny, because it ignited a quench of independence or self-rule or freedom, whatever you write. It ignited a sense of, thirst, or it ignited a quench for self-freedom or freedom from the alien rule that existed. This is what you can write. It was definitely more than a Sepoy mutiny because many people took part in it. Even the civilians joined it. It said that 150,000, one data showcases, I don't know where it is from, it's just said 150,000 of those who died, 100,000 were civilians. So it was definitely a large scale and definitely not just a Sepoy mutiny. So more than a Sepoy mutiny, but we cannot term it as a first war of independence given the scale of it. But it definitely ignited a sense of nationalism and a quench for freedom from the alien rule. This is what you can write. So the revolt of 1857 is a very important topic, and it was the revolt only that made Britishers come to, it made the British government to pass a law which made Queen the sovereign body or sovereign authority over British India and abolished the company rule in India. Right? So this was about the revolt of 1857. I'll see you next time. Thank you.